This is the story of how Yeti Bob met Bobette. It was a blustery day on the mountain. A cold wind whipped through the trees, and a light dusting of snow fell from the sky, which is pretty typical for this time of year in the Himalayas. And with winter approaching fast, Yetis all over the mountain were preparing for hibernation. That means stockpiling food, checking up on their lairs, and most importantly, finding a good partner to hibernate with. Our hero, Bob, was still looking for love after his breakup with Lucy back in Season 1. But unfortunately, like most things in life, love was hard to find. Despite having good looks, a great personality, and a killer bod, Bob just couldn't seem to find a Yeti to call his own. It wasn't for lack of trying, though. In fact, this Saturday was supposed to be his lucky day. He had set up a blind date with a Yeti named Betty Lou, and the two of them were going to meet up at the local watering hole, a small cave that had a steady stream of fresh water flowing out of it. The cave also served as a Yeti nightclub, and every Saturday night, young Yetis would come here to socialize, dance, and maybe, just maybe, find someone special. Bob put on his finest sweater, did his best to slick back his hair, and headed off to the cave. On the way, he practiced his best pickup lines. "Hey there, pretty lady, do you believe in love at first sight, or should I walk by again? I'm not sure if this sweater makes me look fat. Do you think I should take it off? And my personal favorite, are you from Tennessee? Because you're the only 10 I see." Yeah, that last one was a real knee-slapper. As he approached the cave, Bob could hear the faint sounds of music and the distant chatter of Yetis having a good time. As he rounded a boulder, he got a clear view of the entrance and stopped in his tracks. There, standing in front of the cave, was the most beautiful Yeti he had ever seen. She was tall and slender, with long, flowing hair and a figure that could stop a Yeti's heart. But she wasn't alone. Standing next to her was a burly, muscular Yeti with a thick neck and shoulders that could probably bench press a small car. And if that wasn't bad enough, the two of them were clearly an item. They were holding hands, for goodness sakes. Goodness. Now, usually, Bob was a pretty confident guy, but this Yeti couple was really starting to get to him, so he tried to shake off the disappointment and walk away. After all, there were plenty of other fish in the sea, or in this case, Yetis in the cave. Surely Bob would find someone at the party, right? Well, maybe, maybe not. As Bob walked away, he tripped over a tree root and tumbled down a small hill. He landed in a heap at the bottom and let out a loud grunt of pain. The couple at the top of the hill saw him fall and started to laugh. "Hey, watch it, short stack!" the big guy yelled. "You almost gave me a heart attack. Can't you see I'm trying to enjoy my Saturday night?" "Oh, go eat a bowl of gravel, you big lug," Bob shot back, "and maybe work on your people skills while you're at it." The couple started to walk away. But then the girl turned back to Bob and said something that shocked him. "You know, you're the worst-looking Yeti I've ever seen. You have the build of a toddler, the fur pattern of a house cat, and your face. Well, let's just say your mother must have been very proud when she dropped you off at the orphanage." Ouch, those were some harsh words, but Bob was no stranger to rejection. In fact, he'd heard it all before, from "you're too hairy" to "your eyes are too close together." But there was something about this girl's words that really stung. Was she right? Was he destined to be alone forever? Was he doomed to spend the winter all by his lonesome? Was his quest for love doomed to fail? Would his species eventually die out because he couldn't get a girlfriend? These thoughts raced through his mind as the girl and her buff boyfriend disappeared into the cave. Suddenly, an idea struck him like a bolt of lightning. He knew what he had to do. Bob made a quick exit, heading straight for the town square, where all the Yetis gathered to buy supplies. Bob wasn't exactly sure what he was going to do, but he knew he needed to get himself noticed, and fast. He ran into the market just as Mr. Fluffybottom, the local merchant, was setting up his famous Yeti idol impersonation show. Mr. Fluffybottom was known throughout the Himalayas for his uncanny ability to imitate the singing voice of the Yeti idol, and his shows were always a crowd pleaser. But tonight Bob wasn't there to watch the show. He had an announcement to make. With the microphone in hand, he took center stage and introduced himself to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have an announcement to make. I am single and ready to mingle. That's right. This lonely Yeti is looking for love." The crowd erupted in applause. Finally, someone was acknowledging his existence. Someone besides his mother had noticed him. He felt a surge of confidence and happiness. Maybe tonight wouldn't be such a bust after all. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Oh yeah, well, you're about as appealing as a bowl of week-old gruel, you overgrown chia pet." Bob turned to see the same girl from the cave standing next to the big, burly Yeti. They were both laughing, and Bob could tell they were making fun of him. His heart sank. What had he gotten himself into? Then something amazing happened. The crowd, led by a group of brave female Yetis, started throwing snowballs at the couple. "Get out of here, you big meanie!" A snowball hit the girl right in the face. "Leave him alone, fatty! He doesn't want you anyway!" another one shouted. Bob was in shock. Was this actually happening? Were the Yetis finally standing up for him? Was he finally being accepted for who he was? Was this the start of something beautiful? Or was it just a bunch of Yetis throwing snowballs at a couple of strangers? Well, it didn't matter. Bob was too busy basking in the glow of the crowd's adoration to care. He was finally being seen. He was finally being heard. And that, my friends, is what love feels like. Except it wasn't love. The girl had ripped off her Yeti mask to reveal a human face. And the burly Yeti wasn't so burly after all. Underneath his furry exterior, he was a man in a gorilla suit. Turns out they were part of a traveling circus that had come to town. And the ringleader had dared the two of them to infiltrate the Yeti Club and cause as much trouble as possible. The plan was to get a good laugh out of it and then sell tickets to the main event, which featured trained squirrels doing backflips and a man swallowing swords. As for Bob, he was left standing in the middle of the town square, feeling humiliated and alone. But then, something unexpected happened. A small crowd of Yetis gathered around him, offering words of comfort and support. "Don't listen to them, Bob," said one young Yeti. "They're just jealous of your fabulous fur pattern." "Yeah, don't worry about it, buddy," said another. "They're not worth your time. You'll find someone better next week." And as the Yetis slowly dispersed, Bob felt a sense of calm wash over him. Maybe they were right. Maybe he shouldn't waste his time worrying about a couple of clowns from the circus. But then he looked down at his feet and realized he was standing on a pile of snow. And as he looked up, he saw a pair of footprints leading away from the town square. They were big footprints, much bigger than any Yeti he'd ever seen, and they were heading in the direction of the forest. Something inside Bob snapped. He didn't know what it was, but he had to follow those footprints. So without thinking twice, he set off into the woods. Bob had no idea where he was going, but he didn't care. He just had to keep following those footprints. He had a feeling that they would lead him somewhere important, somewhere that he was meant to be. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the trees, Bob came across a clearing, and in the middle of the clearing was a campfire. And sitting around the campfire were 3 Yetis. They were unlike any Yetis Bob had ever seen before. They were taller, stronger, and more handsome than any Yeti he'd ever laid eyes on, and they were staring directly at him. "Hello?" said one of the Yetis, his voice deep and booming. "My name is Chad." "And I'm Justin," said the second Yeti, "and I'm here to tell you that you're not alone." "We've been watching you, Bob," said the third Yeti, "and we know what you're going through. We were once outcasts, just like you, searching for our place in the world." Bob was stunned. Had he finally found his Yeti tribe? Was he finally going to find the acceptance and love he'd been searching for all his life? Only time would tell. But one thing was for sure. This was just the beginning of a whole new adventure. And now, my friends, I have an announcement to make. Season 2 of Yeti Bob is officially in production, and I can't wait to share it with you. I've heard some folks say, "Who's Yeti Bob? He's not even a real Yeti. He's just some guy in a costume." And to that I say, well, they're not wrong. But that's not really the point, is it? The point is, Yeti Bob is a story about connection and belonging, about finding your people even when you feel like an outcast. It's a story about love, laughter, and learning to accept yourself for who you are, fur patterns and all. And I hope that's something we can all relate to, whether we're Yetis or humans, or anything in between. So thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you for being a part of the community. And above all, thank you for believing in the power of friendship, love, and acceptance. Together we can do anything. Together we can conquer the world. Together we are family. And that's something no Yeti or human or anything in between can take away from us.